Hello, EFR 513 students. We're working on exercise 13, and it's dealing with data set from the U.S. Small Business Administration. So in the previous video, we downloaded this file, and we downloaded it as a CSV file. So we're going to pick up from that. So you'll have it in a file somewhere. And the first thing you do is going to click on the file function. So you're going to click on files here, and this is to the right of the screen about halfway down. And then you're going to find your directory where you put the file. And in this case, ours is right here. It's loan underscore data underscore CSV period CSV. So that's comma delimited file, and that's our file. So from there, I'm going to go to more, and I'm going to say set as working directory. So when I click that, it's going to give me this code here, right here. Okay, so that's setting my working directory. So for my assignment, what I'm doing, I'm just copying and pasting that up here, and that's my working directory right here. So number one was just downloading. Number one in the exercise was just downloading the data set, and we've done that. I have the part one video, and part two now we're going to load it into R. So we have our working directory, and then here it is. I'm going to read CSV. Here's the file name, and then I'm header true. And then I print a little bit of the file, I give its dimension, and then I give its attributes. So you can go ahead and run that section. And you'll see down below the data has shown up here, and it can come up. So here's the data file right here. And then when I look at dimension, it's 1337 by 11. And here's the attributes. Okay, so here's the names of the files, right? So, or the names of the columns. All right, so the next one says select a subset of variables to study. So we were interested in the state code, and then the total valued of a loss. This is the disaster, and we're interested in the total amount. Now, as you can see from the attributes, here's the names of these things. So I'm creating a data frame with those values. Okay, and I'm also in this exercise, I'm going to create the library function called data table. This is going to allow us to use the which and the by command, because we're going to do it by state. And then I give the citation for it. So I create that data frame, and then I use the library to create the as data table, and then I can do some functions on it. So that's this assignment. So when I block this, again, I'm creating the data frame, I'm creating that library, I'm opening that library, and then I'm as data table to that file I created, and then I gave that number 2, so then I can run that. I hit it up here. So when I ran that, created those files, and here, I accidentally, my finger slid off when I ran it. So I'm going to rerun that. Okay, so I ran that. You can see it ran the package, the library package, everything. So, so now I have disaster 2, and that's been defined as data table. And when I look at my attributes, here's what the variables are called. Right here, my attributes. That's what my new columns right here. That's what they're named. There's many ways to do this. It's just one way. So in the second part, it says remove disaster, total value loss, and verify loss less than $10. So this is money, like if there's a natural disaster, what's the total loss? And now some of the data, there's a value of $0. So somehow they made it into the database, but they didn't lose anything, or $1. And I'm just removing those. Now, in any analysis, you could remove the ones that were less than $1,000 or more than $1,000. It's up to you in the analysis. I'm just getting rid of the 0 and the $1 ones. Okay, so that's this function right here. And then I plot the data. I plot the loss versus the loan amount. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. Okay, we see for the graph, here's the graph. Now there's quite a bit of outlier data in this analysis. So, but that fulfills that. So I got rid of those that were less than $10, and then I got the plot. So that's number 4. So number 5, it says calculate the means of total verified loss and total approved loan amount and the difference by each state. Okay, do a box plot. All right, so to calculate that, I'm going to take the means, and then I do it for the total loss, and then I do it for the total amount of the loan, and then I do it for the difference, and then I do that by state. Okay, so I have by state. Okay, so then I'm ready to run that, and then I ask for a box plot. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. So here's the box plot. Again, we see these outliers show up. And here's my outcome of this data right here. So as you can see, right, here's my code. And then I get the mean amount, or the average amount of the total valued loss in the disaster. And then I have the mean amount for the total loan amount. And then I have the difference. And then I have it by state. So if I was doing a study on this and I wanted to know the difference between the states, I could know how much they received, and then the difference. Okay, so that's number 5. And then when we go to number 6, it says notice that the amount from the previous one, it's actually from 5. New York has a negative difference. This is the total loss from the disaster minus the loan amount. This is the mean average of New York got for the value of the disaster. What was the loan identification information for the loans? Okay, so on average, now New York didn't have very many, but on average, the loan amount was more than the disaster amount. And we see this right here. So it's the only one with a negative value that they got more for the loan than the disaster. Now, I don't quite know how the federal government works, but that's something different than everybody else. Okay, so we can take a look at that. So here, let's go ahead and identify just the New York loans. Okay, here they are right here. Okay, and then we could look at these and say, okay, well, what's the more identification? I have the zip code, but I want the rest of the identification numbers that were in the original data frame that I brought in, or the original data file. And so I just go attributes, disaster. That was my original file. And if I do that, this is my code then to run that. Okay, so where's the rest of the information for New York? So I'm just going to go ahead and run that. And here's the rest of the information for these values. Okay, for example, here's my city name, my parish name, my state code, etc. So that's giving more information. So what if I was going to write some article talking about the average amounts per state that was claimed by the disaster, and then the amount of loan, and then the difference for all the states? Here's that data. So then, for example, I could write a paper on that. Gives the basis for a paper. Okay. All right. Okay, very good.